Our world needs a sustainable economy, but the transformation to being sustainable is complex. Yet leaders that move quickly can see massive opportunities before them. I'm Joel McCower. Join me as I talk to the trailblazers who are showing us all how ESG has moved from responsibility to opportunity. I'm here today with Carla Peterman, Executive Vice President, Corporate Affairs, and Chief Sustainability Officer at PG&E Corporation. Carla, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Joel. Good to be with you this morning.
So talk a little bit about your road to here. You spent most of your career in the public sector before you joined PG&E in 2021, I think. What attracted you to moving to the private sector?
Sure. Well, one of my major motivations for working in public service was an interest in addressing climate change. And I really love the power of policy and what we can do collectively when we have our government and our companies working together in a common goal. So I had a great time and productive career in public service. And when my term ended as a California Public Utilities Commissioner, I really reflected on what I wanted to do next. And one word that kept coming to my mind was impact. I wanted to be somewhere where I could have impact. And I also was really interested in how to implement the policies that I had been a part of developing, and really understanding when the rubber hits the road, what made some of them work, what made others didn't. And so I was really open for different opportunities. And eventually I ended up at a utility. In fact, now I'm at Pacific Gas and Electric, which is the largest utility in California, serving 16 million customers, electric and gas service. And we really are at the front lines of dealing with climate change. So both mitigating the impact of our impact on the climate, as well as figuring out how do we adapt? How do we make sure we can provide essential services as the climate is changing? So that's how I ended up here.
Well, adapting is a big part of that. And one of the things you're adapting to lots of things is you're integrating renewables into the grid, rebuilding to create a smarter grid, and then ensuring that energy is reliable, affordable, and sustainable for everyone. How do you prioritize?
Well, it's about ands, not or. And for us, it's a part of our DNA because you're exactly right. We have had to and are part of the leadership on clean energy. Over 93% of the power that we delivered last year was carbon free. And at the same time, in our service area, we are experiencing many of the climate risk. So in our service area, we're having extreme heat, extreme wildfire, but also flooding, subsidence, sea level rise. And so we are very much integrating climate change projections and climate change mitigation into our basic operations every day.
So for you, sustainability is obviously the environmental, social, and governance issues, but it's just really about the sustainability of the energy supply in a increasingly uncertain and turbulent world.
It's true. I mean, I would just say we see our responsibility as an energy provider being beyond a core mission of providing safe, reliable, and affordable services. It's really about making the lives of our communities better. And so last year, we actually updated our purpose and our mission statement to be about delivering for our hometowns, serving our planet, and leading with love. Because at its core, that's what we're doing. And we do that, and we also deliver our ESG strategy with a focus on the triple bottom line: people, planet, prosperity, and making sure that all that we do is connected to people, planet, and prosperity, and just ultimately serving our communities.
So I have to ask you about leading with love. What does
Yes.
what does that look like for an energy utility?
Right. So I'll tell you, when we started talking about leading with love, some people were skeptical. And when I first heard about it, I said, okay, this is a new approach to be taking as a company. But what it looks like really is leaning in to solve solutions for our customers, being there when the tough gets going, being patient. You know, they talk about love is patient, love is kind, showing up to our communities and saying, we're here to make it right. We're here to make it safer, and we're here to listen. We're here to own our mistakes of the past. We we'll do our best, but we're always on a path towards continuous improvement. So it's really listening. I think sometimes when you come from a big company and you go to a community, it can feel like a David or Goliath situation. And that's not what we're about. We ultimately know to be successful, we have got to co-create solutions with our customers. Gone are the days where an energy company could handle it all on its own. We know that in order to deliver power and gas to our customers in an affordable way, we need their engagement. We need customers doing demand response. We need customers investing in energy efficiency. It also means for our coworkers that we tell our coworkers that we love them, that we value them. And we want our coworkers to feel joy at work, because if they feel joy at work, if they feel loved, they go out into the communities and love them as well.
So how do you know, how do you assess whether your 16 million customers are feeling the love?
Well, one of the things really candidly we do is, every day review the verbatims from our customers when they come in, and we review comments from our customers that are positive, comments from our customers are negative, right? You don't get better if you don't know.
What's some feedback you got that maybe surprised you?
I would say it didn't surprise me, but one of the things that you can imagine when, as a utility goes about setting climate goals, and we wanted goals that, and we do have goals that are really steeped in science and the best in class analytics. We didn't want to set goals and then figure out how to do them. We wanted to put forth goals where we actually have a work plan behind them in terms of how to achieve them. So we really used, different models like the pathway models, et cetera, to help us determine our goals. And then when we talked to the Sustainability Council, they said, this is great. And we said up front, we want this objective to leave no one behind. We want to deliver these goals in a way that is inclusive of the community. And so they gave feedback about, hey, if you're going to be inclusive of the community, you've got to focus on affordability, because affordability is top of mind for so many of our communities, but especially for those that are disadvantaged, that they want to have affordability and clean energy. So really focus on those initiatives that deliver both. So for example, one of the things we increased was our commitment to workforce training and making sure that diverse members of our community are part of the energy transition and get trained. We also focused on building electrification and how we can do it in a way that makes the transition affordable. So for example, we're going to be piloting zonal electrification, which is where you take an entire community and electrify it, which will allow the community not to be served then by gas, which helps to reduce the cost of maintaining the gas system. These are early days in these types of projects, but that's an example of how we are really trying to think about what the community needs at this point in time, as well as what the climate needs in the decades ahead.
I imagine one of the biggest barriers that a company like PG&E has, because every company has this barrier, is just change. You've got so many changes going on. There's technology change, there's market change, there's customer attitude change, employee culture change. You're changing basically a product and service that most customers didn't have to think about, and now they perhaps do. How do you think about change and making change happen at the scale, scope, and speed that you seem to be trying to achieve?
Well, you hit on the key word, and it is culture. And our culture at PG&E is our virtues. And we identified 6 virtues that are important for our coworkers to really embrace. And we're in the process of really spelling out, well, what are the signs that you are achieving those virtues? And so to your point, one of our key virtues is nimble. How should we be nimble in the face of this change? Because change is the only thing guaranteed. I tell you, every year I have a work plan and I end up working on something I didn't anticipate. So nimbleness is important. Other virtues for ours that are important in this transition are to be tenacious, to continue to move forward. The targets and goals may seem aggressive and ambitious, but you just got to plan your work and work your plan, as my dad says. Another key virtue is being trustworthy and coming forward and being honest about where we are in our transition. And then another key one for our purpose here is ownership. we have 26,000 coworkers and thousands of contractors. Having each person in the company own the work. We are all owners of this business. And so it means if you see something that's not going well in a different part of the business, you speak up. If you see a place where you can lean in and help, you speak up. And so, we've told folks, hey, if you're really ready to be a part of change and part of a mission, this is the place to be, California and PG&E.
So what would it take to go further faster? I mean, you've got technology levers to pull, you've got policy levers to pull, you've got market transformation levers to pull. What levers do you need to pull right now?
Well, all of the above. There are technology changes and involvement that we need. There are evolution on public policy. So, for example, one of the opportunities we see with ESG, because it's not all doom and gloom about adaptation, there's actually really good opportunities to bring forward superior technology. So we really see the win-win in electric vehicles and the ability for our customers to not only decarbonize their transportation, and I'll tell you, 1 out of 6 electric vehicles in the country are in our service area, but we also see the role for electric vehicles to be providing grid services to help manage demand when we have these high peaks. And so we have some pilots underway with General Motors, with Ford, on vehicle grid integration. And so that's an area where you need all the above. We continue to need advancements in the technology to make that more seamless. We need evolution in customer behavior with customers comfortable with their vehicle being used during charging periods and that charge being modulated. Continued advancements in public policy that support the deployment of the vehicles, as well as standards and charging infrastructure that would allow for VGI. So that's just one example. And if you look across the different areas for decarbonization, there is work to be done. Yeah. I also think, coming from the public policy sector, that the more we can be in conversation with each other, the better. I feel like everyone's working on so much that it's just taking that moment to pause and understand and talk through, hey, why is this not working? What can you do? How can I help you? How can you help me deliver what I need to deliver?
So when you think about those conversations and about PG&E strategy altogether, what's the biggest untapped opportunity that you see that in your ESG lens?
So I do see the biggest untapped opportunity around transportation electrification. When we think about the share of carbon emissions in our society that come from transportation, there is low-hanging fruit there. So I see that as a big opportunity. A second big opportunity I see is coordination between the electric and gas sector decarbonization. We are uniquely positioned at PG&E, being a dual fuel overlapping utility. And so when our customers get our bill, they are experiencing the bill from the electric and the gas side. And as we move forward with building electrification, which presents significant opportunity, we need to do so in a way where it's ultimately affordable. And one challenge is, as customers do appliance by appliance electrification, they still rely on the natural gas system, but there's less throughput. So we are having to recover the cost of fixed infrastructure over time from fewer customers. And there is a concern, and others have written and spoken about this, that it's the more affluent customers who will have the ability to electrify first. And so that will mean that some of our less well-off customers will bear increasingly higher gas costs. So thinking about that coordination is important, which is why, for example, we're looking at zonal electrification. We're looking at what are ways to make the transition more affordable. How do you complement that also with timely investments in the grid to make sure that it can take on this new electric capacity?
So when we talk again in 5 years, what's the ESG story you hope to be able to tell about PG&E?
In our climate strategy report that we put out in June, we set climate greenhouse gas emission reduction goals for 2030, 2040, and 2050. We started with the end, 2050, which is we want to heal the planet. And what that means technically for us is to be climate and nature positive, to be removing more greenhouse gases from the system than we put in, and also to be supporting broader climate goals like biodiversity, clean water, clean air. So you back that up in 2040, our commitment is for our energy system to be net zero across our scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions for our electric and gas system. So for 2030, we've laid out discrete objectives. And for our goals for 2030, scope 1 and 2 emission reductions by 50%, and scope 3 reductions by 25%. And so we've identified clear outcomes to get there. Things like 70% of our power coming from renewable sources, just for example. And so when you ask me where I want to be in 5 years, yeah, that 2030 goal is just 8 years away. So in 5 years, I want to have made real progress on that 2030 goal so that we know what we have to do to cross the finish line in 2030. I also want to be in place in 5 years where the stakeholders that we work with, the community groups, the policymakers, and even our customers associate PG&E with a commitment to healing the planet and addressing climate change. So it's about doing the work and also getting the message out so that we have partners to work with along the way.
As they say about sustainability, it's a journey, not a destination. Carla, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Joel. Always a pleasure.